After a couple bumpy years, the MCU has concluded Phase 5. Hi, my name's Zach, and today we're going to talk about the latest MCU entry, the Thunderbolts. Before we get started, like many of you, I started this YouTube channel because I cannot watch a movie without needing to talk about it afterwards. And if that sounds like you, you're in the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, I want this to be a conversation, so comment down below what you thought of Thunderbolts. Were you a big fan of it? Were you anticipating it? Me personally, going into Thunderbolts, the MCU has definitely been on a bit of a rocky road lately, where not everything that they've been putting out has been hitting audiences the way that Phase 1, 2, and 3 did back in the day. A lot of people have said once Endgame ended, they should have just ended it at Endgame. Now, personally, I've never been one of those people who have said that they should have just ended it at Endgame. I have still been on board the Marvel train. I've enjoyed a majority of the series. I've enjoyed pretty much all of the movies, even after Endgame to some degree. I think my least favorite of the Marvel movies of all time, not even just post-Endgame, is Eternals. That one just didn't hit me the right way. Even mediocre ones like the last one they put out, Captain America Brave New World, I still had an enjoyable time with it. But one of the things that the Thunderbolts trailers really seemed to be promising was that the Thunderbolts was going to feel like that throwback to Phase 1, 2, and 3 of Marvel, where they were practical stunts being done. It looked like they were shooting on real locations, wasn't so much green screen, which I do feel like the MCU has been overly reliant on green screen and the volume as of recently. So when I saw the trailers for Thunderbolts, I was very excited. I've been saying for pretty much since the first trailer came out that this looks and feels like a movie that would have come out in Phase 3. With that said, let's start with the review, and let's just kick off with what worked about Thunderbolts. And I'm not even going to bury the lead here all that much. I loved this movie. I really enjoyed this movie. This movie was the magic that the MCU used to possess back in the day and has had a little bit of trouble maintaining all the way through consistently through every project, where they really put the characters of this movie front and center to the point that you get endeared to them, you love them, and the way that they throw this team together in a way that makes sense for the story they're telling, and the dynamics and the camaraderie that they set up amongst this team, where they don't want to work together, they're reluctant to be together at the start, but as the story goes on, they're more and more forced together, and in that way, they form a somewhat family kind of bond. It's a very typical standard formula that Marvel likes to use, but back in Phase 1, 2, and 3, they used it tremendously well, and it works tremendously well in Thunderbolts. And one of the impressive things about Thunderbolts as well is these are all characters that we have met in past MCU projects before that were kind of side characters. Some had more screen time than others. For example, Yelena from Black Widow, Red Guardian also from Black Widow. They get a little bit more shine in this than someone like, say, Ghost, who was introduced all the way back in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But they still take these characters that were kind of forgotten, rejected characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they propel them, they put them up on a pedestal of being lead characters in this film. And Marvel has always been able to, first of all, have fantastic casting. The characters, the actors always feel like they were meant to be played by, you almost can't imagine another actor playing a role in most Marvel characters. It's the same with the Thunderbolts here, where the casting here off the charts is great. You got Sebastian Stan, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell's in here. John-Kamen coming back as Ghost is also in here. And the way that they are able to not just have these characters play off of each other, but develop them throughout the entire story. Everyone here, I feel, gets a pretty satisfying character arc, because one of the things that I really appreciated about Thunderbolts that it does for all these characters is these are all broken characters. These are all characters that are lonely, that in some ways are depressed, have been forgotten, abused. In some cases, they've been rejected by those who they want to call peers, who they want to be a part of. All these characters are searching for purpose. And that's kind of the through line that Thunderbolts finds throughout all these characters and the group dynamic is they all have to come together to fulfill something within them by each other. And by the time you get to the end of the film, I found that the way the story went about, they did a really great job of making you feel like these characters are meant to be together. And in that way, even though we've seen these characters pop up before, we may not have loved them, they make you love them in this movie by the end of it, and they make you love this group as a team by the end of it. And, you know, after James Gunn finished up his Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, now that the Guardians are kind of disassembled, and our OG Avengers team has been disassembled for some years now, and there's even questions of who is going to be the Avengers moving forward in the MCU. Marvel needed a new team like this. Marvel needed another team-up movie that felt like this, and this, I feel, came at the perfect time as you're setting up Doomsday, as you're gonna get the Fantastic Four in 2 months. This was just a breath of fresh air for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Another thing that makes this a breath of fresh air for me is the simplicity of the story going on here, because in phase 4 and 5 up until this point, Marvel has really gone off into the cosmic, into the fantasy, fantastical elements of the MCU, where there hasn't really been that grounded street level type story that has gone on in the MCU for quite some time. Thunderbolts harkens back to the time where Marvel seemed to understand that not every movie had to be a grand save the world, save the universe type story. This is a very contained story. This is contained to our characters. It's personal to the characters. It really only takes place within a couple locations, where a large bulk of this movie is our characters trying to escape from a death trap that they've been set up in, and then it's a road trip movie, and then it's a survival movie, and then you do get the big Marvel climactic ending in some aspects to this film, but they also subvert expectations in a really fascinating way when it comes to the third act of this film as well, that I really appreciated, where it's not just a punch 'em up, shoot 'em up type ending. They go a little bit deeper. They go a little bit more complex with the themes and the metaphors that they're trying to tell in regards to mental health, in regards to addiction, drug abuse even. It's very different. It's very bold for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to tackle these types of issues, and the way that they go about it, the way that they visualize it in kind of this third act climactic climax is really fascinating and really interesting, and I appreciated that Marvel experimented with this direction in this way. Another thing that makes this a standout for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially in Phase 5, is the action sequences. The action sequences in this, they don't feel overly CGI. They don't feel overly visualized. There's practical effects being done here, practical stunt work being done here, where it feels like the action of a Captain America Winter Soldier, for example. You know, on the boots, grounded, good gunplay, good hand-to-hand combat, nice shot in frame. You can see what's going on with the action. I also found that this movie looks beautiful, and again, a lot of that harkens back to the fact that this is not just on a green screen. They went to actual locations. There's a stunt done by Florence Pugh at the beginning of this film where her character, it's in the trailer, she leaps off of a building, and they actually did that. They actually took Florence Pugh to a location, to this building, and had her propel off of the building, and it just makes all the difference when you watch it on the big screen. You can tell the difference between a green screen and a practical stunt being done, and the movie is all the more better for it. This is also an example of what Marvel used to do as well in the past, where they went out and they sought new, fresh talent that they saw potential in, that they were able to bring into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This time they've gone after director Jake Schreier, who did the popular Beef series on Netflix. And honestly, my takeaway from this movie is that Marvel needs to lock this director down. Jake Schreier, he just seems to get it. He gets these characters. He understands the action, how the interplay of it all can work in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To me, this feels like Marvel has found their next Russo brothers. I really hope that Jake Schreier gets to do more within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially after this film. He did a beautiful job with it. Another thing that I have to give this film props for is how they bring cohesion back to the MCU and also set up new and exciting teases for the future. And this is something that Marvel Cinematic Universe has also had a problem with in the past films of these two phases, where there's just been too many teases, there's been too many setups in the post-credit sequences, in the movies themselves, that we're still waiting to be fulfilled, we're still waiting to see go somewhere. Thunderbolts not only brings in elements from past movies that makes the universe once again feel connected and feel like a breathing, living organism of a universe, but the post-credit scene of this film also teases the future in a way that left me hyped and left me amped up like I used to feel at the end of Phase 3, where it doesn't feel like, well, we'll see if they bring that back. We'll see if that happens. No, this is a post-credit scene that is clearly setting up what's going to happen, where we're going, and it's so exciting. It's really great to leave the theater feeling this rejuvenized excitement for the MCU, for the direction of where it's going. I think something that's important to point out about Thunderbolts is this is kind of the first release. Captain America Brave New World was technically the first release, but this is kind of coming out of the Bob Iger taking back the Disney throne era, where Bob Chapek was CEO of Disney. He's the one that kind of mandated all these Disney Plus shows. He's the one that kind of set up these managers over Kevin Feige, stripped Kevin Feige of his power of where he could decide what made it to theaters, what made it to TV. Bob Chapek kind of put these managers over Kevin Feige, who made those decisions for him. They gave him a quota that he needed to hit for a certain amount of Marvel content, Marvel projects. And I feel like that is something that made the MCU go for quantity over quality over these past couple of years. Thunderbolts feels like Kevin Feige got his power back. It really does. It's the first film in a very long time that feels like there's a ton of care put into the characters. There's a ton of care put into the story. There's a ton of thought put into how this is going to affect other things to happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while also keeping this a focused story that we can just sit down and enjoy. It doesn't require too much extra viewing. It doesn't require it doesn't feel like a part 1 to a part 2 that's coming later. It's a self-contained, complete story, like how movies in Phase 1, 2, and 3 used to feel. And I can't help but feel that that is because Bob Iger came back, Kevin Feige got his power back, and it makes me super optimistic for the future of the MCU, for the future of where Marvel's going, because if this is an indication of the quality control getting back on track for Marvel, I really do think that they are going to be able to do some really exciting and great stuff still moving forward. With all that said, I clearly enjoyed this movie. I clearly loved this movie. Let's talk about a little bit of what did not work for me in this movie. And honestly, this isn't like my number one favorite MCU film of all time. This isn't my... it might be in my top 10. I'd have to sit down and really look at it. But there's really not much here for me personally that I didn't enjoy. I pretty much enjoyed the entire movie from beginning to end. So these would just be a couple little nitpicks that I would have about the movie, but really didn't like hurt my enjoyment of the movie at all. Where these characters are coming off of a number of different projects. You've got people from the movies, you've got people from TV shows in here, and thus you do have to quickly reintroduce all these characters to the audience, and in some cases introduce these characters to the audience who may not have been watching Falcon and Winter Soldier and stuff on Disney Plus. Now, for me, that's not a big problem at all. I've been following the MCU since 2008. I've seen all the shows. I've seen all the movies. I have a pretty good memory of everything that kind of went down. So I'm very familiar with all these characters. But because they have to introduce these characters to a couple new audience members who didn't watch the shows, there is a couple not long, but overly exposition going on when the characters kind of first get introduced. You have to establish everyone's background in some kind of form of dialogue or another, and it doesn't bog the movie down. It doesn't really ruin anything, but it's clearly they're trying to play catch up to some of the audience members, where if you've seen everything, you'll be sitting there like, yeah, kind of already know this. I kind of get that. But, like I said, it's a nitpick. It's really not that big of a deal. Also, the heart I found of this movie is Yelena and Red Guardian's relationship. I think that is where the heart and soul of this movie lies. And if you didn't watch Black Widow, it's not going to hit you as emotionally well as I think they want it to. It hit me There's one scene in this movie where Red Guardian's kind of giving Yelena not even just like a pep talk, but just like a father-daughter conversation going on. I felt a tear go down my eye. It was so beautifully done, and the dialogue in it was just so, you felt the father-daughter relationship really come up there, and I thought that it was just a really great scene. But the nuances of that and the real relationship ties of that will be a little bit lost on audiences, on you, if you haven't watched Black Widow. Also, there's a character that they have a lot of mystery around called Bob. You've seen him in the trailers, played by Louis Pullman. I really enjoyed his character, by the way. They really build the mystery, though, around him for quite some time, which, if you're watching this kind of video, if you're watching this kind of channel, it's probably not a big surprise of who he ends up being. I won't give it away just in case it is a surprise to you of who he ends up being. But, you're kind of just always waiting for it to come. You're like waiting for it to be kind of revealed. And the way that they get to, let's say, his final stage, it feels like it's more of a complex situation, more of a complex character than the movie's runtime with all these other characters surrounding him could give to this character to really flesh it out, to really develop it. Like I said, it's a nitpick. It still worked for me. I still understood what was going on with the character, and eventually when he gets to this place, how it all kind of went down. But there is just like a little bit of desire left there, where I would have liked to have seen a little bit more development there before we get to his final form. Again, if you know what I'm talking about, but even if you don't, I still found that his character was still pretty enjoyable. And when it came to the third act, everything still worked for me. There was just a little piece of me being like, I could have used this a little bit more. But honestly, that's kind of where my negatives, if you want to call it, kind of end with this. I just really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. And I think a big part of it is because a lot of the MCU for the past couple of years has been hit and miss. They haven't been hitting that quality level that we've been feeling in Phase 3, especially. And this feels like a movie that could be in Phase 3. This feels like a movie that honestly should have probably been somewhere in Phase 4. In a way, it's a movie that feels like it came a little bit too late, but at the same time came right at the right moment. It's gotten me super excited for the MCU going forward. I feel like if Fantastic Four and Superman can be as good as this movie or better, I think we're going to have a fantastic year for the comic book movie genre. I'm super excited for the future. I'm super excited for where this movie leaves off. And that asterisk at the end of Thunderbolts, it does mean something. And what it means was pretty satisfying. It got me pretty excited. Honestly, I can't really sing the praises of this that much higher. It's not the greatest comic book movie ever made. It's just a really damn solid one. So for me personally, because the MCU has been so mediocre in a lot of ways for some time now, this is a project, this is a movie of theirs that really stands out amongst the crowd as of late. I'm giving the Thunderbolts a strong recommend, especially if you're an MCU fan who has felt a little bit let down by some of the past entries that have come out these last couple of years. I think that this is almost a must-see. It really did bring back what I felt like was the magic of the MCU of days of past. And this is a movie that makes me go, this is why I don't say they should have ended at Endgame, because Thunderbolts proves that Marvel still has a lot of gas left in the tank. The next Marvel Cinematic Universe coming out is Fantastic Four, and I've actually got a ranking of all the 4 Fantastic Four movies right up there. You can check out before that comes out. Right down there is the latest video uploaded to this channel. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching and hearing me out. Definitely leave your comments down below what you thought of Thunderbolts. I'd love to see them. Don't just watch movies, talk movies. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.